Good day, good people. This is Inanna Joy,
And this is Joyce Wambua Osborne.
and we are here to just chill with y'all and tell you a little bit about our books. Jay's book was published last year,
Yes.
and why don't you tell us the title and show us the cover?
So here's my book, Seasons of Me, A Journey of Learning and Unlearning. It was published in August of 2025. And I've been doing a few tours on it. I did a book launch in the US, and I just came back from Kenya and I did a book launch there.
I think you were doing a little bit of a world tour there, weren't you, Mama? Because you went to Kenya. Did you do a little bit of book things in Belize as well?
I did, and I also did a mini book launch or book presentation in Taiwan.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so I gotta tell you, 2025, God has really been good to me.
That was the year.
It was a year. I was in 5 countries.
That's amazing.
5
That is
countries.
amazing. That is
Yeah.
exciting, people.
It's very exciting, and I'm enjoying this author journey.
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
enjoying it. Yeah. So, Joy, I have to say it's a pleasure to sit here and enjoy this meal with you.
Likewise, most
Oh my
definitely.
God. Yeah. And when I think about how we met, guys, connections, meaningful relationships, Joy came to my book launch in August. I didn't even know her. You came with your friend,
Friend of a
Helen.
friend, yeah.
Yeah, friend of a friend. And we connected a little bit, but we really connected when we found out we go to the same dance studio.
Yeah.
So Joy here is a salsa dancer too. So when we
We're both pretty good dancers,
oh,
right?
thank you. Yeah, and I've been enjoying that journey of salsa dancing and
Absolutely.
learning and
And it's interesting that both of us have an affinity for salsa dancing because it's a form of partner dance that requires a leader and a follower. And our work, both of our books are about, or my most recent book and your book is about relationships, particularly heterosexual relationships between men and women, and how in this modern age we can examine the experiences that we've had and try to create better experiences, and I guess you can say better community dynamics,
better community dynamics
looking forward.
Yes, but I was so excited when I found out you go to the same dance studio with me, and from that moment we started connecting more. We started doing more things together. I really got to know you, and having written all these books, and it's very impressive. I'm so proud of you.
I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of the way that you've really taken the marketing aspect by the horns. Because anybody who's really tried to produce and market a book knows that being a writer, being an author is 10% writing, 90% marketing. It is some real work that you have to put into it. You have to have some patience, but you gotta have some savvy. You gotta have some hustle about you.
You have to, and you have to enjoy it. I have to tell you, I do enjoy making the videos, and I love the camera. Does it take a long time? Yes, it does. It takes a very long time, but I enjoy it, and I love my product just as much as you love your product. And I can't wait to talk about your book. But I love my product, so it's an honor for me to make these videos for my fans, for my followers.
And the whole experience of writing something and being able to sit down with communities of people around the world and talk about the themes in your book and why it's meaningful to different people. That is the thing that I cherish the most. The book club meetings and the readings that you do, the library visits, and the bookstore signings, all of that stuff. You make lifelong friends with the people that you meet in some of those events. And then some of those people just become your long-term followers. You get into the best conversations. It really is a fun life.
Yeah, I have to say, like, my book community, the people I've met, in this journey as an author, and also my salsa community, the people I've met. Like, we met the president of Delaware Press.
Yeah, Delaware Press Association's president is one of our dancing buddies.
Yeah, he's one of our dancers. So the connections that you get over there, it's it's very valuable, and I'm very, very grateful. But most of all, let's talk about my followers, my fans. I'm very, very grateful. I'm a 638 on Instagram, and I've grown this organically. Yeah, my 638 Instagram. Let's make it to 1,000 this year, guys. Let's make it to 1,000. Facebook, I have 713.
And that's part of that. A lot of that comes from the around the world travel.
Yes,
and, connecting with people.
Yes, they're around the world. Some of the conversations I had when I was in Kenya, the podcast there, it gave me some followers on Facebook, and I'm very appreciative of them. TikTok and YouTube, are coming along. So subscribe, share.
Subscribe, please share. So now it's time to dive in a little bit, right?
It's time to dive in. Bring it in. Bring it on. I'm excited about this.
I like it when we get cozy like this. Yeah. This is what I love about the readings and the book events where you really get to kind of chew on the subject matter a little bit more.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of excerpts from your book, Jay.
Okay.
And I wanted to point them out because, your book is about your journey of learning and loving. You experienced a marriage. How long was your marriage?
I was married for 15 years.
15 years.
Yes.
2 children.
Two children. 2 sons. Yes.
But one of the particular experiences that you had early in your life was you were pregnant when you were young, and you chose to have an abortion.
Yes.
And you immigrated to the United States.
Yes.
Shortly after that experience.
Maybe a year or two, not shortly after, because when I came, I was pregnant again. Yes.
Well, we know your culture is one that is heavily focused on family and tradition.
Yes.
How did that very difficult experience impact you, and what was it like having to carry that?
Yeah. So that was a very, very trying time of my life. I was very young. I didn't have a support system. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just knew I wasn't ready for it. And the person who I was pregnant with, he was not having it. He didn't want anything to do with it. I had big plans, my education. And there's a part of me that felt like I didn't want to disappoint my parents. So I come from a very strict home. We had values. We knew what was expected of us, and it was shameful. It was very shameful for me to go and say this to my parents. So because I didn't want to let my parents down, and I didn't feel safe enough to even have these conversations with my mom, and I didn't have an auntie who I can talk about these things. So it's a 19-year-old making decisions alone. So at that time, that felt like the right thing for me to do. The experience was horrible. I don't even know how I came out of it alive. It wasn't a hospital. And a friend of mine just took me to this woman. It's like, okay, she's going to take care of this, whatever, paid her, whatever. And, she was like, okay, go home. You're fine. So when I look back at it, I say, really, God wanted me to be here. There was no medicine. There was nobody telling you how to take care of yourself. You're just going to go home and pray. And I didn't tell anyone. So I didn't tell my family. They had no idea. It was very bad. It was tough for me as a 19-year-old to just experience that. But I think the hardest part for me was the torture from the father of the man who had made me pregnant. He was 5 years older than me, and I was young.
Did you have interactions with him, negative interactions with him, even after you had the abortion, or was the pressure to have it?
Well, I can't even say he pressured me to have it. I just knew I was on my own, and I had this bright future that at that point, I felt this pregnancy was going to hold me back from this bright future. I was waiting to go to Kenyatta University to do BCom. I didn't want to go to university when I was pregnant. I wasn't going to tell my parents I was pregnant. So there was that shame of how you're going to walk around at 19 pregnant. It was very shameful. And I think the sad part is not having anyone to talk about these things with. So you're on your own.
I'm wondering, just wanted to ask you a question about the timing with him.
Yeah.
How long did you carry that alone until you were able to tell someone about it?
Well, the only person who knew was a friend of mine who we grew up in primary school together. She has, I mean, she knows everything that I've gone through in my life, and she's the only person I could trust with this information. You know, they always used to say I was the book smart, she was the street smart. She knew everything about the streets. I didn't know anything because
y'all complimented each
yes. So I grew up in a very sheltered home. So I didn't, she was very street smart. So she knew how to solve any problem. And she was like, this is your problem. I'm gonna help you solve this.
We're gonna handle this.
We're gonna handle this. And she, oh my God, you know, God bless her. But really, I'm very, very grateful to God. But I have to say, that experience was horrible and it was traumatic. And I carried it for so many years with the shame. But the most difficult part is how the gentleman who made me pregnant, how he tortured me. For years he tortured me. You know, I could not break up with him because every time I brought up, like, we need to break up, he would throw in my face, oh, you killed my baby, now you want to leave me. And being that young mind, you feel like you have to stay with him. You know, so this was constantly told to me, and it just made me feel more shameful, made me feel very little, and just tormented me mentally. But at that point, I didn't even know he was tormenting me. But it was
intentional.
It was very intentional.
Strategic.
But as a young person, you don't know. You know, that's why sometimes when you're dating someone who's older than you, their mind is more mature than you. You know, you're here, you're 19, you're waiting to go to college. He's already a working man.
Or he's at least had enough. He's had more time to run game.
Yeah. So I think for me, what I struggled the most and my healing part was the torture and how it tormented me as a young person, and even in my 20s, you know, just tormenting me and throwing this in my face and making me feel guilty, like I was a bad person, and how dare you want to break up with me after you did this. Yet this is the same person who wanted nothing to do with it.
Child, right?
Yeah. And it took me a couple years, and it's sad how trauma can stay with you for years without even knowing you're traumatized. You know, because I kept this friendship, so-called friendship, even after I moved on. He still lingered around my life. You know, he was the one person who I couldn't separate myself from, maybe from the guilt.
And isn't it funny? Is that guilt piece? Isn't it funny how this is the insidious nature of narcissistic manipulation and just you know, any form of manipulation that plays on guilt is as this person is trying to make you feel less worthy. They're using that to hold on to you. So
to their advantage.
So unworthy that they don't want to keep you around for their convenience or you know, their satisfaction or whatever.
It's emotional manipulation, and that's why I tell young people, you know, young girls out there, it's good when you grow up with someone like a mentor. Honestly, I say this, and I've said this before. I feel like if I had a mentor, a safe space, an aunt I can trust, then I could have felt safe enough to say, this is what's going on in my life. And at that point, they'll be like, he's emotionally manipulating you. You know, don't buy it. That's not true, you know. But I didn't have that. And that's why mentorship is very important to me. You know, I have 3 mentees that I mentor, and I take that as a privilege to be able to mentor them. And it's very near and dear to me. Because if I had that one person to go to and say, this is what's going on, this is what has happened, and it's okay, you can go to your parents. We were so scared, you know, of letting our parents down. But now I know if I had gone to my dad, he would not have loved me less. If I had gone to my mom, she would not have loved me less. It's just a fear that you feel like, okay, there's all these expectations. And I was very intelligent in school. I did very well in school. So how do you go and tell your parents you're throwing all this education away? Now you're pregnant. I couldn't. So with my 19-year-old mind, that was the best. That was the best option for me. Yeah, I'm not for it, but I'm saying at that point,
that was you. You did the best with what you knew at the time.
With what I knew at that
and just
time.
Trying to navigate all of the fear.
Yes,
and the abusive
yes,
relationship.
yes. Yeah, very emotional, abusive relationship, and that's when I look back, I want to hug my young self. I really want to hug myself and tell myself, it's okay. I survived. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here, and I'm grateful. I learned a lot.
Some empathy that you can help someone else.
Yes.
To possibly prevent them going down the same path that you did, or to at least help to lighten their burden and encourage them.
Yeah, and I let the young ladies I mentor, I let them know it's not the end of the world. Just because it doesn't work with this one person, it doesn't mean you're less than.
You have no idea when you're that young. You feel it, but you don't know. You need the perspective of someone who's been there. Who's older.
It doesn't mean you're unlovable. Right. Ladies, you're very lovable no matter what you went through.
Ladies and gentlemen, y'all remember that. Because I think if both the ladies and the gentlemen recognize their worth, some of y'all wouldn't act as foolish as y'all do.
So be gentle with yourselves. And I see the importance of being able to talk things out. Because honestly, I'm 19. I'm making this decision with another 19-year-old. What do we know? And think about how many young people die trying to do an abortion, not in a clinic, in just someone's
in the
house.
Aftermath, sometimes if there's, hemorrhaging or anything goes on, if there's infection, they don't have assistance with that because they're trying to keep it a secret. It's just, it can go left.
And when we were in high school, there's a girl who passed away trying to have an abortion. So when you think about the dangers of that, and
people, we're not necessarily advocating for either decision.
We're
sharing this for the sake of awareness, and, so that we can let people know we've had real experiences in this life. And these are difficult decisions. We know that there are people out there going through the same kind of thing. You're not alone. You're not the only person who's ever experienced it.
And thanks for mentioning that. I'm not taking any side on this. I'm just sharing my experience, what I went through and what led me to that. No. Thank you. I'm just sharing my experience, and it's different for everyone. This is just how my journey unfolds as a very young 18, 19-year-old ready to go to college.
Okay, well,
that's a deep question. I gotta tell you, I've done so many podcasts and interviews, but no one has ever asked me about that.
Well, and I wanted to make sure that I asked you beforehand.
It's okay.
If you're comfortable talking about that, because it's very personal. And I really appreciate you being willing to share that in the book. And in conversation, because this is the real nitty-gritty of life. This is the stuff that we need guidance on. This is the stuff that people need encouragement. This is the stuff that, like you said, can derail you mentally, emotionally, and can really put an imprint on your being as a person, and how you move in your life after the experience. So,
when someone torments you as a young adult, it's ingrained in your brain. You carry it, you walk with the shame, you think you're less than,
and abuse becomes a part of your physiology. It affects your heart rate. It affects, it affects your gut at times also, because we get that nervous feeling when the adrenaline is pumping, when we're constantly having to be in fight or flight mode with someone who's giving us a bunch of drama or causing a bunch of drama. All of that affects you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically.
But I discuss it in the book. There's nothing that I discuss in my book that I cannot talk talk about, because I've healed through all those traumas.
Amen.
I've gone through years of therapy and just finding myself, rediscovering who I am, and finding joy and peace in myself, forgiving myself, and just forgiving people. I don't talk to that gentleman anymore, but I let it go.
Yeah.
I left that alone. It's a phase in his life and my life, and I don't know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now that's one thing that I talk about in my book is this idea of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we are told that forgiveness is something that we must do, and we're pushed to do it too soon. I believe that forgiveness is a gift that we give.
We give ourselves.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it is an idea that is imposed upon us at a very time where we've already been victimized or we've already been put upon. And we have to know that we have the agency,
Yeah.
to take time to lick our wounds, to do our healing process.
Yeah.
And we don't, what I try to what I try to do is give myself the time and the space to forgive within my own time, so that it's actually genuine.
It's genuine. You have your own pace, and you have your own pace. You cannot say to someone, well, it's been 3 months. Why haven't you forgiven me yet?
Who are you to dictate
you
what my healing
can't.
process?
Everybody's healing process is different. The timeline is different. So just embrace your timeline and be okay with it. Just be kind to yourself, be gentle to yourself, and thank you.
As we continue on,
yes, of course.
I had a quick line from I guess this is the introduction of the book.
Okay.
And I guess it's just talking about our expectations.
Okay.
It says, we adhere to the norms of society, expecting to be rewarded for sticking to the rules.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so poignant, because we're told that literally.
Yeah.
There's going to be a reward in heaven. If
Yeah.
you serve God a certain way, there's going to be a reward on earth. A lot of the prosperity preaching that we're very familiar with in our day and age tells us that, if you give, if you serve God in a certain way, then you're going to be rewarded with a good life. You're going to be rewarded with wealth. There are all of these different ways in which we're trained to believe that if we just do the right thing, if we just toe the line, that we're going to get this reward and a wonderful life. But, as you mentioned in your book, and I even touch on in mine, especially us as women, we're fed that from such a young age.
Very young age.
Be a good girl.
Yeah.
Follow all of the rules of femininity.
Don't get pregnant before you're married.
Follow all of the rules of femininity. Cater to the man, be submissive, all of these things.
Yeah.
And we're told to do these things as if there's going to be a reward.
Yeah.
But there isn't always a reward.
Not necessarily a reward. I feel like the society gives us a checklist, and I was really good in following my checklist and making sure like everything checks off. I was a student who paid attention in school, who got good grades, who went to Pangani Girls, which was a good school. Shout out to Mrs. Cherio. She was very harsh, but
she kept you in line.
Oh, she kept us in line. But you know what? She taught us how to be ladies. She really, the training we got in Pangani Girls, it was a boarding school.
Okay.
Yeah, I was.
Oh my God!
Listen, like we had to be ladies. Our clothes had to be ironed. We had to look a certain way. So I like the training I received. I appreciate that. A very strict school.
It instilled pride.
It did. It did, and she was very proud of her girls. She used to say, "My girls were only allowed to mix with Starehe boys," which was another really strict boys' school.
Okay.
Because my boarding school was a girls' school.
Okay.
So I check off that box. I make it to university. That's another check off box I have to check off. I do my BCom. Then after that, I'm here in the US. There's the pressure to get married, and I finally get married. So that's another check box. And I get pregnant, of course, before when I come here. Then I don't want to disappoint my parents. So I come to the US, and I remember when I called my dad and told him, "You're a grandfather." He said, "Who gave birth?" And I was like, "Me." He was shocked. My dad could not believe it. It's like, "Wait, you just left 2 months ago. How did you give
Dad, I left with a little more than you.
He was hugging on me, and we were spending all this time together. He had no idea, and so of course I don't want to disappoint my father. It's like the girl who wants to please their dad, and my dad worked very hard, so I wanted to make him proud. I always wanted to make my parents proud. So I come here, and then, I get married. That's another checkbox. I get my master's. Now my dad, my parents are very proud of me. I'm doing the education thing because my dad preached on education. After that, I get my CPA. I'm just doing all these things. My dad was very, very proud of me. So and I know he wanted the best for me, but I don't know if there's anywhere I pause to ask, what do Joyce J really want?
You really get lost in all of
You
that.
get lost in all those expectations. And yes, they're your parents. They want the best for you. I'm very grateful. I mean, I live the life I'm living, the lifestyle I get to enjoy because of my parents. Yeah. So I get what you mean with the expectations, but I think we should be okay doing the things we want to do, not expecting a reward. That's how it should be. That's
sometimes
life.
you get, sometimes you get you get more or better results than you expected, and sometimes you get much worse.
Yes.
And I think that has to come with I think debate that is
like
used
dangling the carrot.
the carrot.
You're testing the carrot.
That's what makes
catch the carrot.
That's what makes us think we're supposed to get something good in return for all of the good that we do for living.
It doesn't always happen.
It doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on that too, because you talked a little bit about the types of men that you married and the types of men that you dated.
Yeah.
And one guy in particular I remember seemed to really come across as that sort of quiet, good guy personality. Now, I was one who was, for the most part, always attracted to the quiet guys, the strong, silent type. And people always, a lot of times we hear these arguments on the internet when the whole battle of the sexes conversation comes up. A lot of the men complain that women are often too attracted to the bad boy. Well, I, for one, can say that I was never really a bad boy, kind of girl.
I think I liked the bad boys.
I mean, I
put me in a lot of trouble.
I've come across a couple of them, but we've had our fair share of experiences with the quieter guys.
Yeah, I had one quiet, really
and
nice
there are times when those experiences don't always lead exactly to where you think they're supposed to either, because you think, oh, it's two good people, two quiet people, and you can still have some very negative experiences if both people have not taken the time to do their inner work.
Agreed. I feel like it starts from inside, from within, and one thing I did notice, after doing all the work and, I'm mentally, emotionally in a good place, and it's like your dating circle, it shrinks.
Oh yeah.
And it's because when you come with peace and calmness, it's boring to people who are used to chaos and confusion. So you meet a guy and, you're not about the drama. You're not about all these things. You can actually communicate. You're consistent.
Somebody who can match that. Somebody who can go to an art show or a jazz concert or, something nice and not need the drama of going to a club where they're shooting stuff up.
But the thing is, when they, like, I usually say, like, where I am, I don't even have to cut people off. They fall off themselves, because when you're operating from a space where you know who you are, you have your peace and your calmness, people who are used to chaos and confusion, that's boring to them. And they will leave you alone. You don't even have to say anything to them. You don't have to. You don't have to say much, and they will just look at you and they'll be like, "This is boring for me,"
and you'll feel relieved because the chaos will be gone.
Like I don't have to respond to all that, And sometimes they look at you and they're like, "Oh my goodness, her standards are too high. I don't want to do all that work." So they just move along themselves. So you never have to worry about those people. You're not vibrating in the same frequency. You could be in the same room, but they're never gonna see me and I'm never gonna see them. We are different vibrations. So,
well, there you go. So well said.
Yeah, thank you. Good questions.
So, okay, the next point that I wanted to go to, I believe this is the first chapter. Let's see. So this goes into what I was just saying. I'll just read the sentence. I didn't know it then, but this would become the first domino to fall in a long chain of dating men I felt sorry for. Now, the reason why I pulled that out, of course, we were talking about dating the guys that seem to be the nice guys, but they seem to be down on their luck when it comes to women or dating or whatever. Oftentimes, we as women feel pressure to not go for the ones we feel attracted to or the ones who are really interesting to us, but to the ones who we're supposed to like. And that type of connection can end up being just as toxic as, the other extreme of getting with the so-called bad boy.
I think like for right there when I'm speaking about men I felt sorry for, it wasn't more like the good guys, like I felt sorry for him because he was quiet and stuff. No, it was men that needed to be saved.
Oh boy.
So
he was a bad boy.
I had like the superwoman, the savior syndrome, like I'm gonna look for the broken wing, the person who, like in the instance of, like Kamau in the book, he was an orphan and I came from a loving home, I had two parents who cared and loved for me. He never experienced that. So here I was coming in trying to fill a void. Like, how come nobody ever loved you? Wait, here I am. I'm going to save you. I'm going to love you.
But because
he's already broken. I can't feel that. He has to work on himself. I can never be this. I can never love him enough, like his parents would have loved him. I can't fill that void. So I'm coming here trying to save someone who I cannot save. So what I've learned is, I'm not here to fix anyone. We all have a responsibility to fix ourselves, work on ourselves.
Just on you. That is the philosophy of
this
journal.
Oh my God. Can we jump on this? Can we jump
I have 4 journals that are companions to my book that give you journal prompts and mantras that you can carry into the next phase of your evolution to help you examine these things. So like he wasn't necessarily that good guy, but again, it touches on one of these issues that women in particular often deal with. No matter what kind of guy it is, you're trying to fix, you're trying to over nurture, you're over functioning because we've been socialized to nurture, to give emotionally.
But there's nothing wrong with nurturing and giving if your partner is pouring into you too. I just want to make that very clear.
It's got to be reciprocal.
And you both have to be very healthy, coming from a healthy place. I can't say at that age or at that phase of season of my life I was the healthiest. I was already dealing with a lot, so you can't you can't pour from an empty cup. And even in partnership, marriage, relationships, I should be able to pour into you and you pour into me. I'm 100% okay nurturing into my partner, but he has to fill my cup too, twice as much, because it takes a lot for a woman to give to a man. So the man has to give you twice as much just to make sure your cup is filled, your cup is overflowing. You're not drawing from an empty place.
Because in marriages and even in long-term relationships, because of these societal expectations and the way that we're groomed, the way that we're taught, women are taught to be the submissive servant, the one who is always going to think first about everyone's needs. And so a lot of times you end up giving double. So your cup can be empty that much quicker emotionally and spiritually as well.
But sometimes I call that self-abandonment,
Absolutely.
And I can tell you there are phases in my marriage where I feel like I abandoned myself because I was busy taking care of everyone else. Are the kids where they're supposed to be? Is their husband doing what he's supposed to be? Is he happy? Is the house running the way it's supposed to? Well, I'm doing all these things which are moving the family ahead, but I have self-abandoned myself. I'm not pouring into myself. I don't even know what I like anymore. And sometimes when you do that, at the end of it, you become very bitter. You're jaded. You're looking at your life, you're like, where did the 15 years go? But it was you pouring into people who were not pouring back into you, or maybe you had to dim your light. That's the other thing too, like with women. I know there were seasons of my life I had to dim my light so my partner can shine, or because maybe my light was too much, and I felt like for me to protect the image and whatever else people are gonna say out there, it's best for me to dim my light. But that's not healthy. That's not right. You shouldn't have to walk in your shadow so you can fit in. Now we go where we fit in, not where we squeeze in.
That's right.
Yeah. This is some really good
Yes,
stuff.
I'm enjoying this convo.
Yeah,
okay, so
nice.
before we jump into another book, I just had a
can't
few.
wait.
I know she's itching to get into the next book.
This is what we're gonna be talking about. But yeah, let's finish up. And here's Seasons of Me. Yeah, a journey of learning and unlearning. Yes. Tell me. You got more questions?
Right. I got a few more questions for you.
Okay, bring it on.
So now that you have done this amazing world tour, this launch, last year you were very busy. Can you tell us some of those highlights from that experience?
Oh, wow. First of all, I listened to Dr. Miles Monroe. He passed on years ago, but I still listen to his preaching. And there's one of his recording that says, God blesses people through people. And I can tell you, last year, God blessed me through people.
Absolutely.
Last year was amazing. Like, God was so good to me. I was busy from when I started. I usually hibernate during the winter because it's too cold.
It's supposed to be a period of dormancy and rest.
Like December to March, I'm just at home. I don't do much. But April was my first tour, my first trip. I went to Mexico with a couple of friends, and that's when like everything just opened up for me. I focused on my book. I finished my book. So publishing my book was a big highlight.
Okay.
And I had the book launch in the US. I'm so grateful for the 92 people. And you were there.
I was there, and it was an absolutely stellar event. So well executed, so classy. The crowd, just a bunch of classy, intellectual, smart, brilliant, beautiful men and women in the room celebrating her and, sharing the themes from the book.
Yes.
It was put together like a wedding too. She came out there and did her little dance and everything. Can you tell me a little bit just about how, from the business side, how you planned your launch?
Yeah. So
what were the most important aspects of that?
So I'm a planner and I pay attention to detail. The other thing too is I visualize a lot. Like, I see things in my mind before I see it with my eyes. So I planned the whole event in my mind, like I knew exactly what I wanted, how I wanted everything to play out. I knew how I wanted the flow of the event, that happened. I mapped it out. Like brain mapping.
Absolutely.
I did a lot of brain mapping.
Okay.
I tend to wake up in the middle of the night, and that's when my ideas come in. So I would just jot those ideas around. But I also had a great team.
That's right. I noticed that
team.
You had people. You had like a couple of ushers. You had people at the table helping to distribute the swag bags that everybody got with your book in it.
Yes.
You had someone who acted pretty much as your MC that introduced you and gave kind of went through the flow of the experience.
Yeah. And I had a personal assistant who made sure I was where I was supposed to do, doing what I was supposed to be.
You can't do it all. And it made it easy. I saw that you were calm.
I was calm.
You were able to enjoy it.
I didn't have to worry about anything, So and one thing I think about and I remember in my childhood, I've always been the girl who never shied away from celebrating herself. When we were in primary school, my mom used to say, watoto umetoa wapi? Let me translate that to you because I know you don't know Swahili. We used to have these parties for my birthday when I was in primary school. So maybe not primary, high school. So I'm 14, 15, 16. We used to have birthday parties at my house. And I would have a ton of friends coming there, and they would come and celebrate me. And my mom would always where do you get all these friends?
But you know what? I think more young women should be taught to celebrate themselves.
I never shy away from that.
So much of our upbringing is trying to tell us how to shrink.
And do you know, like even the book launch, both the book launch in Kenya and in the US, I had people saying, why are you doing all this? A book launch is really 2 hours. People come in, you sign the book, you give them the book, you go.
Who made those rules?
I says who?
And where is it written?
Since I was young, I've never had a problem with celebrating myself. And, during the book launch, people were like, why are you doing all this? Just how people sign the book and live. And I said, no, I'm not just doing a book signing. I'm celebrating all the hard work. Me not giving up on myself.
And
the
what else?
nights that I poured into the book. It's a celebration. Right. It's not just a book launch.
And what people don't recognize is that you're developing a brand.
Yeah.
You're introducing your brand to the world. You want to do that as confidently as possible. You don't shrink from that.
No. I don't know how to shrink, girl.
Okay.
I love to celebrate myself. I'm a happy person. I'm very, I love to have a good time,
And why not?
Yeah, life is too short. We don't have to be all serious all the time. But let me mention the highlight was seeing people show up for me. Amen. Seeing you and you and you. People I knew, people I didn't know show up for my event, both in Kenya and in the US. People I didn't know, they bought tickets and came to my event. That meant the world to me. And I wish I did hug everyone, but I wish I could just tell it to you again and again how much I appreciated that. So that was a big highlight. But I think for me, what melted my heart, seeing my mother dancing, having a good time at the book launch in Kenya.
Awesome.
The book launch in the US was amazing. But in Kenya, I know you were there.
How could you top what happened in the States, child?
Oh my God.
But you know what? This is something that I've had conversations with, because I've been doing a lot of networking over the past years with a lot of different women's organizations.
Yeah.
And we've been promoting each other's work and really big up in each other.
Yeah.
And one thing that comes up is, this idea that we're told that we're supposed to celebrate a marriage. We're supposed to celebrate a baby, and that these are supposed to be the pinnacle experiences, the pinnacle celebrations of our lives. And they are important, and they should be celebrated to the utmost. But why should you not celebrate your book business, the launching of this new phase of your career and of your life, and of becoming, a thought leader in the, the things that you're talking about in the book? That is something that is worthy of.
I gotta tell you, Joy, I find every reason to celebrate myself. Right. A couple years ago, when I remodeled my bathroom, I had a party.
Okay. Look, people used to have rent parties. People used to have rent parties in the hood. You find a way to celebrate life, to cultivate joy.
My friends came, they're like, what's the party for? Oh, my new bathroom and myself. Okay. Wait, is it your birthday? No. Is it a no? What is it? It's just, I'm just celebrating myself.
Celebrating life.
I'm celebrating life, and I'm also very, very grateful to God. I'm healthy. I have people who love me. I have a good circle. So I celebrate life. I don't see why we should not.
Let's get it. Dance to that.
I know, girl.
Okay. So now, as we're talking about how some people can get a little upset. Or, get a little bee in their bonnet or a bug in their bra about, the fact that they see you being happy and living and celebrating your life. My next question is, how do you handle criticism and comments online from, particularly from your podcast in Kenya, from people who, maybe are uncomfortable with the way that you present or with the ideas that you talk about?
Yeah. Well, listen, Joy, one thing I do know is people respond based on their experiences and their environment. Right. So it really has nothing to do with me.
Absolutely.
And that question came up during, and you were there during the book launch in the US. Someone else asked me that, and even in Kenya, someone else asked me the same question. This is how I look at it. Your comments, especially the negative comments, and someone will watch a podcast and they'll just pick one line and they'll have all these negative things to say. It's just where they are in life, and that response is coming from their experiences and their environment. So it really has nothing to do with me.
None of my business.
I don't take it personal. I just recognize that's where they are. And I leave it at that. It has nothing to do with me. I can't attach to that. The person doesn't know me. I don't know them. The people who come directly to my social media and comment, I respond to them. I've received a lot of support on my own my
and the
social
support
media.
Outweighs the criticism.
It does. And really, most of the criticism I received was in it wasn't like the most, but here and there. It's from the podcast I did with Dialogues with Jagero. Just some people, they just couldn't understand how I could have a platonic friend. So there were people mentioning there's no way you had a platonic friend, you were using him, or it's not possible for a lady to have a guy who's a friend. And I look at it, I'm like, they're just responding from their own experience. They've never had one, so they don't know. Someone else who's been in a position, who's had a platonic friend, they understand that, and they give positive feedback. So I can't attach to everything online people say. It really has nothing to do with me, so I respect that's where they're from, and I leave it at that.
And there's times where you can immediately feel the energy of, you can tell the difference between, constructive criticism that may not, no one has to agree with everything you say, but there are times where they may have something to say that's in disagreement, but it's presented with respect.
Yes, and maybe they're just curious. They're trying to learn more, and I welcome those. Like I welcome people who message me asking me questions. How did you navigate that, or how come you were able to have a platonic friend and not? I welcome questions like that. But if someone just venting online and just throwing words and they don't even know me personally, really, what does it have to do with me? It has nothing to do with me. So yeah, that's a good question. It comes up a lot.
Because it comes with the territory. But there's a way to manage it.
Yeah.
All right. So then my last question for you, for you is, what goals do you have in mind for Seasons of Me in this coming year?
2026. So let me start by saying 2026 has started very well for me. Guys, I was at the Bear Library today and my book made it to the shelf.
In circulation, baby.
It is at the Bear Library and Wilmington Library.
Wilmington, Delaware.
Wilmington, Delaware. Yes.
And we will be expanding.
We will be expanding in other libraries.
Amen.
I walked in there, and it's a process for them to put your book at the library. It has to be reviewed. They have to read it. There has to be this meeting to make sure that it qualifies. It's appropriate. It's well written. It's not AI. It's not AI, because they don't put AI books there. And my book made it. So I walked to the library today to ask if it made it, because I submitted it last year in August. And I was like, gosh, I hope my book made it. Yeah. And my book was there.
And one thing that I want to say too about that is with these books, if you guys, no matter where you are in, particularly in the United States, but in the world, if you're interested in seeing these books on your shelves, ask your librarian, check out our Amazon pages, so that you can get the proper titles and our author names and the ISBN numbers. And let them know these are great books. We think that your audience would really enjoy reading them. And, do this, when you go to the bookstore too, because we've been working on getting our books into Barnes and Noble and, some of the brick and mortar places. So let any, even the small privately owned bookstores, oftentimes things have to be recommended to them by their readers for them to know that it's something that's sought after. So, help us out. Help us out. We appreciate y'all. Let your people know.
We love you for that. We really do. We wish you could hug each and every one of you.
Thank you.
But that was a good start of 2026 for me. Just my book making it to the bookstore, to the library, the Bear Library and the Wilmington Library, and I'm going to expand. But my biggest goal this year is to do an audiobook. So I've been wanting to translate my book into an audiobook. I have a few people who've reached out. They really want me to do the audiobook, and I want to be the one to do it. So I am working with someone to just help me make sure I narrate it correctly. I'm a life learner, so I'm open to learning the best way to do it. But that's a really big goal for me this year. And August is gonna be the 1 year anniversary of the book.
All right. It's gonna be here before you know it, girl.
Yeah, so I'm open to your ideas. All my friends on the internet, please send me some ideas. What do you think we should do to celebrate Seasons of May, August this year?
1 year anniversary.
1 year anniversary. I want all your ideas, and I'm gonna incorporate them, and we're gonna have a nice celebration in August to mark the 1 year celebration of the book since its launching.
Sounds great. It sounds wonderful.